A new student loan deal approved by Congress and set to be signed into law by President Obama will lead to lower borrowing costs this fall. But it may be at the expense of future borrowers. You created an infographic that I'm going to show on my computer right now. Is this ultimately a good or a bad thing for students?
It depends which group of students you're talking about. If you're talking about the students who are going to enter school this academic year and the following academic year, it's a great deal in that the rates that they're going to have on their student loans and fixed for the life of those loans will be much lower than where they were this most recent academic year. If you're talking about kids entering school 2015 and beyond, I can't say that's necessarily better for them.
Why is that?
Because their rates are going to be higher relative to what they would have paid under existing law. The rates on future student loans from this academic year forward are going to be tied to the yields on 10-year Treasury notes. Right now, the economy is kind of stuck in the doldrums, and so interest rates are low, and so the borrowers are going to enjoy much lower rates on their student loans. But as the economy improves, rates will rise, and in a couple of years are forecast to be higher than where they were this most recent school year.
Where I grew up in Australia, university loans are just pegged to inflation. Why doesn't the government just allow students to borrow at the same rates that big banks and that the government can borrow at? Is that a possible solution?
It's been floated by some lawmakers. The problem is, this is going to sound really mundane, but because these are federal programs, they're budgeted for. And so the way that the Congressional Budget Office calculates its budgets, everything's done on a 10-year forward basis. Basically, the CBO has already forecast enormous profits from the student loan program. And that's caused by the difference between what it costs the government to borrow versus what they charge students. And so any kind of change to the program going forward, assuming it's better for students, will reduce those profits. And so it'll look as if we are adding to the federal debt. And so because of that, Republicans generally aren't agreeable to any changes of that nature. And so it's much harder to enact the kind of reforms that you suggested.